Hello and welcome to a quick 20-minute full body mobility set. So this is going to be a fun full body activation, mobility, rehab, warm up, whatever you find it useful for. It's going to have over 35 different little exercises and movements in it. Hopefully one of them will hit you where you're tight and make you feel better. These are, think of it as fast-paced yoga. So just in the first place, you guys can start foam rolling, doing some myofascial release. I'm just showing you a quick example of the stuff I go through. Feel free, I think I do this for a couple minutes, not too long, but feel free to do your own and your own sticking points, your own sore spots or tight spots. The recommended time on foam rolling is like upwards of 2 minutes per muscle group. So obviously I'm going pretty quick, even on my tibialis anterior here. Anywhere you're tight, rolling it out, making those that nervous system fire a little less actively. Here's calves. So the added lax ball is just a little bit more stimulus rather than just the soft foam roller, but I'm just showing a bunch of different exercises. This will be quick and we'll get right into the actual main mobility movements. But during this time of the video, find your own spots, choose, even if it's just self release where you're like massaging the muscles. We're just trying to quiet down the overactive nervous system in certain areas, and then bring some blood to the area before we get going. The whole program is this whole little exercises is gonna work from the bottom up. So we're gonna start with the feet, and then we're gonna work our way up, full body. Except for I think the first couple exercises is just to get a little proprioception in our spine, which I always like to set up with. But right now I'm just hitting right behind the IT band with the foam roller, so not on the IT band. Anywhere you can feel some tension, try to breathe into it. That's the cue I always like. Kind of take a deep breath and sink into it, relax. If you're tensing up while you're doing it, it's just counterproductive. So I'm just foam rolling. My hip flexors are always tight, and a couple of these movements that we're going to be doing have like hyper internal rotation. For me, not for most people. And so my hip flexors will cramp up if I don't really pretty much just tell them to shut up with these, with the foam roller for a while beforehand. So hopefully you're getting warmed up in a way. I'm smashing my quads a bit. I usually don't do anything on my hamstring other than just that, just posterior to my IT band. I go all the way down to just above my knee to all the way up in working that hip capsule. This will be a great little warm-up program for whether you're going for a run or doing cardio that day, or even a leg day. If you want to really be loose and mobile, it's extensive. It's going to be 20 minutes, not counting the foam rolling. It's extensive, but I feel great and I perform really well after doing this. Or you can treat it as just play this video, follow along, just a rehab day off, just a mobility day where you're just trying to feel better after maybe a hard week of training. So this can be, I'm going to show a bunch of good exercises. I'm hitting the glutes right now, just loosening up. I think this is my last little foam rolling portion, so you can start getting ready to put the foam roller aside. This is like to some degree active warm-up, without the conventional active warm-up you see, like that you would see in sports practices, high knees, karaoke, all that. You will start breathing hard by the end. You will start sweating, and you're definitely going to feel warm. So the first one, I'm just doing cat-cows, so big arch in my lower back, and then I go the other way. So I'm trying to do it vertebrae by vertebrae, working my way up and down. So I start, so choose an end. So here is my neck, then my thoracic, push the ground, then my lower back. So I'm trying to gain control of each vertebrae. I don't want to think of my spine as a whole. So like I said, we're starting from the feet. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do some hockey walks. And so we're going to walk medially, right on the inside of our foot, kind of kneading the ground away. Don't turn this into a valgus knee. Try to, extrovert or pronate that foot and walk on the inside of the foot. Feel your arches, dig your toes into the ground. And then we're going to do some walks. So this is just a toe walk. I'm inching, I'm pulling with my toes, really working. Your arch should be starting to fire, especially by this last one. This one is we're going to open up that arch, and you should be pressing. This movement shouldn't come from the hips, initiated from the hips. It should be started from the feet. So right in this scene, I'm going to talk about it a lot, is tripod position, what I just pointed out, which is 2 spots in the front of your foot and then a spot in your heel. So that's tripod, and I want you to work on that the whole time. Now we're just doing some toe articulation. So big toe up, and then all the other toes down, and then vice versa. All the other toes up and big toe driving down. Move that back and forth. If you like anything and it feels good, stick with it for a bit. I know I go through these pretty quick, but it's for the sake of video. Now I'm just going to do some kicks, and this looks like I'm doing hip or something, but I really want you to focus on foot during this. We just warmed it up. Your foot should get kind of tired trying to balance. Keep that tripod position. Heel, 2 spots in your foot. Kick, you contract your core. I don't want it hip flexors. Don't lean back and kick up. Contract your core, kick forward. And if you get good at this, you don't have to tap your foot on the way back, to catch your balance. You can just keep that foot down. Now we're going to kick back for a little bit. So choose a leg, kick back. Try to keep your balance. And then you don't have to place that foot down if you can control it. Kick back, kind of stretch that hip flexor, squeeze that glute. But again, we're just focusing on the foot here with this exercise, or trying to. We're going to move up to some calf raises and depth drops. So you're just up onto your toes, and we're working catching in that tripod position, right? So we can progress this to single leg. So you up in a calf raise, catch on a single leg, up on a calf raise, catch. And you should catch in your squatting pattern. So if you notice your knee caves in or your torso buckles forward, that's all going to be compensations that you see out on the court or in the field when you're a little less controlled. So try to work this in the correct movement as well. And then we're going to move forward and work on, now we're hitting a little bit more mobility. Once our feet are warmed up, we're going to work our way up a little bit. So we're just walking it out, stretching the hamstrings, stretching the calves. And then we got a couple push-up plus. Work that serratus anterior, drive those scaps forward, arch up, stretch the abs. Use your abs to pull yourself back up. Push through, lunge. So again, this is pretty fast-paced, so I'm not sure if people can follow along. Right here with my knee down, I'm really stretching that hip flexor. When my knee goes up, I'm more stretching the groin and hamstring of the front leg, but when the knee's down, sink into it, breathe into it, and stretch that quad and hip flexor. Turn in each way, raise up, place one hand down, and you're going to be doing the same on the other side. So hip flexor, we're stretching that, and we're turning towards, turning away. And like I said, we're going to be moving quick. I'm trying to get through 35 plus exercises in 20 minutes. So I'm moving quick. If you like any of these, take note, mark it, and then work that into your warm-up. You don't have to do this whole set because you would have to get kind of good at looking at me while doing the exercises. So more or less, just choose 15 exercises you really like that make you feel better and move better afterwards. We're doing some hurdle drills. Pretend there's a hurdle that you have to get your foot and knee over at the same time. So this is going to require a lot of internal rotation as that hip flexes. So this doesn't look like I'm doing it right, but again, this is a weakness for me. So once that knee comes up and that hip's flexed, that heel and knee should be in the same spot. Now we're going to do hurdle unders. So this will be groin. I'm taking big steps. I sink into it. And then you can work your way up from a big counter movement with the chest forward to trying to kind of squat a little bit more upright. Sink the hips, stretch it out. Right, feeling that, we're going to move right back into the hips and a little bit of activation as well. So I'm stretching that groin here, sinking into it, rocking forward. And then I'm going to stick a leg out, stretch that groin, and lift up. So write down a couple exercises, try them out, or watch it once and then try to follow along. Again, I move pretty quick. I wouldn't do this, but I wanted to make a quick video with a lot of good content, a lot of good exercises. So this is, you'll start noticing it's like fast-paced yoga. I'm not sitting in any one position for too long. So now I'm doing 90-90. This feels great on your hips and warming up. Working the internal rotation on that back one, external on that front one. Now I'm trying to touch my knees together. So it's going to feel like a completely different tightness in the hip. Before I was trying to keep my knees apart. Here's 90-90 again. You can face the knee in front if you have poor external rotation, and then bad internal rotation, work trying to face that back knee. Toe touches, so the heel of the foot and that knee should leave the ground at the exact same time. I have trouble with this. I have to lean over a little bit, and now we're kicking back, just squeezing that glute. So you're just squeezing the glute you're kicking with. Same with this side. So if I ever program exercises, this would be like sitting up 90-90 and you're just sinking into it. Versus if I say sitting up 90-90 with foot claps, that's what this looks like. And again, your foot and your knee should be leaving the ground at the exact same time. And now kickbacks is just a glute activation for me. So I'm just kicking straight back, trying to fire that glute. I'm going to jump into the next exercise. So I think we're working our way up still into some more full body movements later. So this is just hip cars. You've seen this. I'm moving through it nice and quick. The trick is make sure the motion doesn't come from your lower back. It's a hip car for a reason. Same with this. Bird dog, make sure it's not coming from your lower back. Try to keep that core tight. Squeeze the glute on the way up. Make sure you got good balance. Standing up. Okay, so this is a little complicated. So I'm RDLing. I go to an RDL, and I'm trying to keep that foot in that tripod position, but I'm trying to do an airplane with it. I don't have great balance. I usually have something in front of me to hold on to, and the trick is to dip that, for me, is to dip that hip in and really stretch the lateral side or the outside of my planted leg. So you can try this different ways. You can try opening up, which is one aspect of the airplane, or drop that my left leg. I'm dropping it down the hip, and you'll feel a lot of tension on the outside of your leg. So kind of move around in that position. Feel the stretch. It's a stretch, but it's a dynamic movement. So here's what it looks like advanced. So you turn out, and then I'm falling, and then you turn in. This is what you want to get to. turning out, and turning in. Again, I have trouble doing it with balance, but if you have anything in front of you, it should make it a lot easier. What you're just trying to do is stack your hips differently in that RDL position. Now we're going to go right into core. So all I'm doing is some bracing exercises or contracting exercises here. I'm just smashing my lumbar into the ground and then doing a posterior pelvic tilt by using my abs. Once I have that feeling down, the proprioception of knowing how my pelvis is angled, I'm going to lift up my legs. I'm just going to do a hollow hold for a bit. Just really smashing that lower back into the ground and squeezing my core. Hands overhead. Trying to breathe in that position because I will want to move. It's not bracing like a squat. It should be like a draw in like when you're sprinting. Now we're just doing dead bugs. Same idea. We're really just trying to work core here. Keeping that posterior pelvic tilt. And then we're back into that hollow hold. The bird dogs or dead bugs were alternating legs, and I'm really trying to use that core. Right back into the breathing. And again, I'm not trying to use my glutes to get this posterior pelvic tilt. I'm trying to use my abs. Once I have it, then I'm going to go up into that glute bridge position. And I'm just going to do a couple of those to make sure I got good feeling and activation in those glutes. And now I'm just doing glute marches. So I'm holding isometric, and I'm driving my foot down and into the ground, squeezing the glute of the leg that's planted, kicking out. And now you can tell I'm starting to walk it out, and it will switch from glutes to being a big hamstring stimulus. So I'm trying to pull my heels towards my body, and my body should shift towards my heels. That will be a hamstring activation movement. You can work in that you could do that for 5 minutes, different exercises like that to get the hamstrings and glutes involved. This is glutes as well, but glute med. So I'm just abducting. It's a dynamic clam. If I ever program it for you, this is a plank. So I'm opening up. Both legs are abducting, and this will fire you. You can do 12 on each side, and your glutes should start firing. I even get a little glute max on that top leg, kicking out, and I'm driving my whole shin and knee into the ground. Squeeze the glutes as I'm pushing up. So we're still working our way up, upper body. When we got all the way up to hips and abs. So this is just a little oblique exercise. My elbow should be pointed up about 45 degrees. Bottom leg should be on the ground. And again, and then I use my bottom arm to palpate those obliques so I know what I'm working and trying to contract and shorten that gap from my armpit to my hip. And I'm lifting up my bottom shoulder blade. And again, if you do like 15, you should start feeling it. It should start firing. This isn't a core workout. This is activation exercises. So I'm not doing 3 sets of 30. I'm just doing 15 reps, 15 reps. Feel the burn, contract the side. It's just a little side crunch. Here's a plank, again, dynamic. A little anti-rotation, anti-extension or flexion. For core, going to do the same on the other side. Open up to straight and then draw in with your core. Tight core throughout the abs. Should be nice and firing by now. So I think that's it for abs, but you want it to be involved with whether you're going for a run or whatever you're doing. Okay, so actually this is one of the last abs. This is a hip thrust to plank position. So I'm going to show it in a couple different angles. You can always try this. It's just fun. Learned it from a wrestler. Hip thrust, squeeze the glute, kick one leg through into a plank. Hold that plank position. So I'm going to show it again. Hip thrust up, choose one leg, kick it through the other, and then fall into a plank position. If you have bad shoulders, AC strains, this one might hurt because you're putting a lot of weight on it. But other than that, you want to be good moving on the ground no matter what sport you're in, whether you're in the dog pile, in football, obviously wrestling, but even basketball when you're falling and you're trying to stay controlled. Okay, so this is the progression I get to a bear crawl hip thrust. This is just kicking across, and you should feel a stretch on the outside of your leg. So you're just in a bear crawl, kicking across, and then we're going to move into opening up from that. So I kick across with my right leg, and I'm just trying to get a little bit of a thoracic extension in my upper body. But mostly I'm just trying to feel a stretch. Now I'm going to take a little breath, shake the shoulders out, back into that bear crawl position. And now we're kicking across, turning up and hip thrusting. So really helps if you actually face that chest up to the ceiling. So you're not just trying to do some weird rotation. And then squeeze the glute. So this can get you really out of breath if you really move in this position. I know it's starting to look a little bit like a functional training on it, but it's a fun little exercise. Gets your core involved, and then obviously your glute on that hip thrust and your shoulders mobility. So yeah, we're gonna do some hip cars now. So this is like a little PNF stretching. I'm driving into the ground 3 seconds, lifting up for 3. Driving into the ground for 3 seconds, lift up for 3. The big thing I want you to pay attention to is that my core is tight and I'm almost trying to draw in and down. Don't make any of the movement come from your thoracic or your back. I could just arch up like a Superman and get my arms up really high, but I'm trying to initiate and have all the movement come just from my shoulders. So I give an example of it later. But okay, now we're just into claps. Again, I'm not just arching my back like that. I could do that all the time. I'm trying to stay down and use my shoulders mobility to keep my hands off the ground. So that's just shoulder claps. And then the driving is like I consider shoulder cars, drive for 3, up for 3. Pushing through, still working those shoulders a bit. Diving our heads down, working that end range of motion, trying to be functional, even in that top position for any overhead exercises you do. Now we're going to get into a march. This is really functional and great progression into sprinting. If you can't march, then you can't skip. And if you can't skip, then you can't sprint. So we're working everything we just went through. Arms with the shoulders, abs with all the core exercises, feet, big thing. Feet, I want tripod position, so I'm pushing through the heel and the 2 parts in the front part of the feet. And then you can move it up to like a skip, and I'm kicking and driving. I'm putting force down into the ground, and you can just march. And you really want to work on getting that knee up to parallel with the ground. So nice 90-degree angle, because that's the full range of motion that you're at minimum going to need when you're sprinting. I can't go crazy depth here, but you squat. Lift an arm, and this is all for thoracic mobility for me. I know other people feel overhead positions in their shoulders, and their ankles or hips. This is, for me, the hardest part is getting my torso to point upright. Now, so that's called squat arm. This one will be an RDL to squat to an overhead squat. So I RDL down, sink my hips, try to bring my hands way over my head as if I could hold a bar there, which I can't. Sink hips, hands way up. So again, for me, that's thoracic extension. That's what I feel it in. I think this is the last exercise is pogos. So I'm showing you the progression actually first, which is single leg. You just bounce. You go from quick to height. So you go, this is called pogos, and you just great little neural potentiation before you sprint or run to know what it feels like. So I'm actually trying to, it doesn't look like it, I'm not pacing myself. I'm trying to bounce as fast as I can at the bottom and then work my way up to slower but more intense jumps. That's pogos, single leg and double leg.